No call.
Warning, Neo detected. Warning, Neo detected.
Now, another arrest in the missing person case of Almost Park mother Suzanne Simpson. Police arrested her husband, Brad Simpson's longtime business partner. His name is James Cotter, and it's revealing legal issues that both Brad and Cotter faced. James Cotter was arrested around 7 last night. His charge of felony for tampering with or fabricating physical evidence with intent to impair. He's been ordered a court-appointed attorney and will be under house arrest. He was also ordered to surrender his passport. Court documents show in 2017, Cotter and Brad Simpson worked together under the business name of Cotter and Sons. The business was bought by the National Business Services and then was sued by NBS for breach of contract. Cotter and Simpson filed a motion for a new trial, but that was denied. DPS confirmed James Cotter's arrest, saying, quote, during the missing person investigation in Almost Park, investigators learned that Mr. Cotter had committed the offense of tampering with evidence. And we still don't know what exactly that means, what evidence DPS found, but this comes as a clear alert is now canceled for Suzanne Simpson. Almost Park police say the search for Suzanne has turned into a recovery mission. The case is getting nationwide attention, and Almost Park officials are facing a lot of pressure to find Suzanne. They have scoured several areas, Almost Park, the couple's home near the Bernie Tower, and a landfill, which we showed you for 3 days, but they still haven't found her. News 4 San Antonio's Marisa Mendoza spoke with an attorney who had some big questions about the investigation and how it's gone so far.
Back at the Simpson home, everything appears to be quiet, with police cars patrolling the area. We spoke to a defense attorney earlier in the day who told us police may have rushed to arrest Brad Simpson due to pressure from the community.
The rush to judgment and the push to arrest, I think, destroyed where this case should be right now.
Robbie Ward is a veteran attorney with experience as both a prosecutor and defense attorney. She is not involved in the Brad Simpson case, but has been watching closely what's been reported.
That's the horror of how this has all been handled. We are no closer to knowing anything today than we were 2.5, 3 weeks ago.
She says, in her opinion, police acted prematurely without properly gathering all the necessary evidence. And she says, at the very least, it could compromise 53-year-old Brad Simpson's right to a fair legal process.
Who knows what would have happened if he had actually been given the opportunity to come in, talk to them, and leave.
Currently, he's at the Bexar County Jail being held on a $2 million bond for 2 misdemeanors and a federal detainer. Ward says the fact that Suzanne Simpson remains missing challenges the legality and strength of the prosecution's case.
Everyone has decided you did it. And that's the position that this man was in when he got arrested. So he decided to do, frankly, the smart thing and not say anything. Does that make you uncooperative? Or does that make you someone who sees the writings on the wall? I need to do what I need to do to save myself.
From the north side, Marisa Mendoza, News 4, San Antonio.
Thank you, Marisa. Barton Simpson, Brad's brother, took to social media today to voice his frustration with the case. He said, quote, "The truly ludicrous thing is that Brad refuses to cooperate with the authorities while his wife is missing, leaving his children and family in pain," end quote. And we will continue to follow this investigation, and we'll still be trying to answer the questions that are out there. We'll be following up with police to learn more, like what is Cotter's connection to Suzanne's disappearance? What evidence did Almost Park police find? What other places are they searching? And ultimately, we want to know, where is Suzanne?
Some possible evidence, but it takes so long sometimes to analyze that evidence. So we don't have any results back from anything there yet.
You have the clothes and you want people to look for the clothes, but have you gathered any other evidence that you want people to say, this might help us?
Yes, well, that clothing in the instance that maybe she was missing, that she's still missing, and she was seen on Sunday, since Sunday night, we want people to have seen that photo and say, you know what, I think we saw her. And maybe she's in that same clothing. We don't know. Maybe she was in distress. We don't know that, but we want the public to have seen her and say, you know, I recognize her.
What about cell phone records? You found her phone. Do you have his phone? Is there anything in the pings that would tell people anywhere that they ought to be looking in a certain area for something that might help you?
No, we don't have her phone. We would love to have her phone. As I mentioned yesterday, we do have electronic opportunities, you know, and that's what we're writing different warrants for, but those take so much time. And we are trying all electronic devices, as you can imagine, very common nowadays, to try to get information from them. And that's what we're trying. We're trying every avenue. But in the case that somebody has seen her and she's in distress, that night we think she was in distress. She may be somewhere and we just don't know about it. It's very suspicious, though, that obviously she's not going to work and she's not checking in on her children. So that's obvious. That's an obvious problem. But at the same time, we don't want to miss an opportunity to say, hey, this is what she looks like. Maybe somebody out there knows where she is, or she's hiding away or something. So that's why we're showing you the clothing.
Do you know where we got that video from?
That's from the Argyle Club in Alamo Heights, outside of it.
Brad Simpson, any more charges we can expect against him from any other agencies?
Well, not from any other agencies that I know of, but of course we are looking at any possible charges that we might have. Right now we don't have other charges except for those two.
Is there a possibility that those charges will be escalated since he was moved from Kendall County to Bexar County?
He is in our custody, and I'll say that there obviously is that opportunity that we would upgrade charges, but we're not there yet. We don't have that kind of evidence.
Has he started cooperating?
No.
As far as not cooperating, he's not talking at all. Have y'all tried questioning him?
Yes, and he still has not cooperated. We would love for him to give us some information because we're searching for her. The children have reached out, and we're cooperating with them to try to get as much help as we can. Obviously, these four kids miss their mom, and so we're doing everything we can.
Will you be deploying any volunteer search groups on top of what you're already doing?
Possibly again, yes. There's some search groups that we have that have such good technology, and that's going to be priority. And so we've learned that they're very, very efficient. We have found things out here that don't pertain to this case that probably wouldn't have been found unless we had professional, assistance like those. We found a gun. I'll tell you that we found a gun, had nothing to do with this case, very old, but these are professional, well-trained searchers, and that's why we want them for now.
Chief, Brad is facing a charge of assault and unlawful restraint. Do we know why his bonds amount are at $1 million each? Why is it so high?
Because it was a risk. These are very commonly risks that we find. He may be a danger to her, and so that's why the bond was so high.
Have you searched any other properties?
I'm not going to comment on where, but I'll tell you, yes, we're searching other properties.
Did you get any hits on any of the warrants you have so far, like for example the house?
Any hits on?
Anything that you were looking for? Did you find anything on those searches?
No, nothing yet on those searches.
Where exactly is Mr. Simpson now?
He's in our custody. I don't want to say exactly right now exactly where, and that's because we're trying to maintain the integrity of the case and also be very very transparent with information that we can give you on behalf of the family and the community here and everybody. It's overwhelming how many people have reached out and are still reaching out about her whereabouts and how are the kids and all that. So we owe it to them to do absolutely everything. There have been cases when somebody is found alive, injured, in severe distress, hidden away, all of those things. We're not going to give up on that. So we'll continue to do updates and put out information as we can, like that clothing and other things. But at this point, that's where we're at.
So do you believe that Suzanne may be naked if you found her clothing?
Do we believe what?
That Suzanne might be naked if you find her without clothing, since you have that.
No, we don't have that clothing. We have a picture of her in that clothing, and that it's very possible that somebody saw her since Sunday or early Monday morning and said, man, I saw her in those clothes. She didn't look, very good. Y'all need to help us out with that. That's always a possibility. And that's why we're putting that picture out.
Did you get any good tips from releasing his vehicle? Has anyone called in about that?
We have not released it.
Or the picture of his vehicle I'm talking about.
Oh,
You said go look for that vehicle.
right. Absolutely. We haven't got any folks that have called and said we've seen that vehicle in this suspicious nature, like it's parked in some unusual spot or something like that. We have not received that.
I know you said you're searching other properties. Have you searched Brad's ranch?
We're checking other properties. There's other properties that we're checking. It's time consuming and we're doing the best we can with that for sure.
Would that be a yes for his ranch?
Yes, we're checking all the technical data we can. Absolutely. Some of the technical expertise that's needed, we're borrowing that. And so all the past, 48 hours has been that. So, and those returns of technical requests through warrants, all of that is starting to happen. So we're confident that we'll get some information.
So far, we've only talked about criminal cases. Are there any civil actions or complaints or protective orders or restraining orders related to him issued in the recent past that would give us cause to think that people knew that he was in trouble and behaving badly before this?
There's there were conditions on his bond, and again, I won't speak to that. I'll let that for another time. No, before this, I have no idea about any of those things. I don't think so. None of that's come to my attention. That doesn't mean that's not possible.
Have you guys found hair or any DNA that would connect Suzanne to the truck or anything else you guys have found?
So we're going to have things tested. We don't have anything very positive, and it takes time. Those hits, as you know, take a lot of time to get results back from. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of waiting for a laboratory to get back with results.
When you put out his vehicle and asked if it had been seen in any unusual locations, is that because there's an idea that he might have dumped the body somewhere?
Those things are always possible, but that's speculation even on our part. He has a vehicle, and that's what we wanted y'all to see. If somebody has seen that vehicle, like we mentioned yesterday, and it was moving out and about, we would like to know where it was. We want to know the whereabouts of that vehicle.
So are you looking for a body or are you looking for Suzanne hopefully alive at this point?
We would love for her to be alive, obviously. There's nothing concrete that says she's not alive. And again, I owe it to the family. We all owe it to the family to speak of her in a way where other people have been found, like I said, injured, in distress, lost, troubled, hiding away. All of those things are possible. So our expectations are, of course, that we get her back alive. It was obviously something very stressful happened Sunday night, very unusual, out of character for her to be missing from work, to be missing from her kids. So, of course, we are holding out hope, and the family deserves us to be positive about it. But at the same time, we're looking at every single possible thing we can to see if there are other charges. And at this time, we don't have that.
Yesterday, you said you found 2 pieces of evidence. You didn't want to disclose what those things were.
Yep.
Are we at a point in time where we can talk about what exactly you have found?
There was a piece of clothing that we are not sure now that it matches up. But just like the gun we found that we're absolutely sure it had nothing to do with it. It's been out there a long time, way before this incident. It's kind of like that, but we couldn't let it go. We couldn't say that. We couldn't say that it was involved in any way. But we had to go ahead and collect it just as professionally as we could with the CSI. Yes, we have cooperation from the Simpson family, the folks that we've had contact with. They've been helpful, and we're very happy with that. But there's a lot of information, and just sifting through it and developing evidence, not just listening and writing it down and typing it out, but following it up and check the veracity of it takes time.
You said Brad has been uncooperative. What does that mean? He's just not saying anything at all? Is he a lawyer?
My understanding is yes, he has a lawyer and he is not talking to us. Prior to that, he did want to speak and we were supposed to meet, and he failed to meet with us. Some of the family has spoken to us, friends have spoken to us, acquaintances, many people, but he himself has not.
In your time as an officer, can you speak to the rareness or bizarreness of this case?
I'm not going to say it's bizarre. It's common that sometimes in the family violence situations, when the victim is a woman, she will be very frightened, obviously, naturally. So we're holding out hope that maybe she's trying to be away from the home to get away from that situation. That's not totally uncommon. But what is uncommon, what is unusual, is that this was a woman who worked and was very dependable and loved her children and was always in contact with her children and her family and her friends. And suddenly that stopped after Sunday night.
Is there any evidence pointing you in any direction besides Brad?
We have investigated some of the things. People come to us with social media posts and things like that we are following up on. And those are people. But at this time, of course, we are looking at Brad because of the fact of the family violence.
How many calls or clues do you think you've had from folks?
Oh, it's really hard. I mean, I don't know. Over 100 folks have reached out to say, hey, this is important and this is not. We're not trying to stop that. We just ask people with good, pertinent information that they think is key to finding out what happened to Suzanne. That's what we're looking for. And some of that may have already helped, but to follow up on it and see that it's credible and that it makes that we can confirm that's what's taking time, and it always does.
Say you're holding out hope that maybe Suzanne is just scared and want to remove herself. If that is the case, that she was watching, is there anything you say to her right now?
Suzanne, if that's the situation and you're afraid or you've been injured, and this was such a hard situation from what we hear from family and friends, they've obviously love you and care much about you, and your children are very concerned. If there's anyone that knows her whereabouts, or Suzanne knows that you're going through such a tough time, we ask that you please reach out. We can get you protected. We can protect you. That's our message to you.
You described that there were you learned of tensions between the couple yesterday. Since yesterday, have you learned more about possibly the relationship leading up to the disappearance?
No, just the continuing, more recent tension.
¿Nos puede dar un resumen en español?
Sí, pero no tan perfecto como...
Está bien, lo que pueda decir. ¿Puede decir el caso?
Sí, esto empezó el domingo en la noche y había una pelea, pero no tan físico, más como estaban en un argument fuerte, ¿verdad? En público, en Alamo Heights, en un club que se dice el Argyle Club. Entonces, mucha gente vio que ellos estaban en eso, y luego después aparece que estaban peleando aquí el señor con la señora aquí en Alamo Heights, aquí digo en Almost Park, y que ella estaba tratando de irse de él y dejarlo físicamente correr, y él estaba deteniéndola. Entonces,
Cuéntenos, ¿cuál es la última información que tiene acerca de ella? ¿Qué es lo que nos vino a compartir ahora acerca de ella?
sí, lo que tenemos y queremos enseñarlos es una foto. Se ve mejor en el internet, que pueden ver la ropa que él tenía y el vestido, cómo ella estaba vestido. Pensamos que posiblemente ella estaba herida después en la noche, el domingo, entonces puede ser que alguien la vio por cualquier lado y dicen, hey, yo la vi el lunes en la mañana por ahí y no estaba bien, algo así. Posiblemente si tenía la misma ropa, pues es posible.
¿Y qué mensaje le tienen a la comunidad?
Eso que en el primer lugar, violencia doméstica es algo muy importante, ¿verdad? Y oímos eso todo el tiempo y eso afecta a todos los niños, gente en el trabajo, vecinos y todo eso. Y hay que de veras empezar a hablar con sus vecinos y sus amigos y con alguien si eso está pasando en su familia.
Y un mensaje para Suzanne, si tiene miedo.
Sí, Suzanne, pues si tiene miedo y está en un lugar, pasé el mensaje que queremos nosotros que ella sepa que vamos a cuidarla lo mejor que podemos, protegerla con todo lo que podemos, porque sabemos que es una situación muy, muy grave.
Cuéntenos por último acerca de Brad. ¿Él ya ha estado cooperando con ustedes o sigue en la misma situación?
No, Brad no está cooperando con nosotros. Él no quiere hablar con nosotros y no quiere ayudarnos en buscarla. No quiere.
Él dijo que estaba preocupado por ella.
Uno piensa que él quisiera, un esposo va a querer preguntarnos algo, aquí estamos y no, hasta ahora él no nos ha preguntado nada de cómo, si estamos hallando algo o algo así.
Esos comportamientos de él, tal vez elevan sus sospechas hacia él, ustedes.
Pues claro, es natural, nuestra sospecha es alta, pero al mismo tiempo queremos buscar por todas maneras. Hay casos en donde algo muy raro pasa y una persona que no pensamos la vio caminando y la levantó y la llevó, algo así. Hay muchas cosas que pueden pasar.
¿Y el señor Simpson no han visto remordimiento o preocupación de su parte? ¿Físico? O sea, ¿no ha mostrado físicamente preocupación por su esposa?
Made in the search of a missing Texas mom who disappeared 3 weeks ago. We've previously reported on the case of 51-year-old Suzanne Simpson, who was last seen on the morning of October 7th by her neighbor. The last known photo of her before she went missing shows the Texas realtor in a dark-colored dress and heels. The case would take another turn when Suzanne's husband Brad was arrested and charged with assault causing bodily injury, family violence, as well as unlawful restraint. According to police, a neighbor witnessed the couple physically fighting, and Brad allegedly grabbed his wife by her upper torso area to gain control of her body. That same neighbor later heard screaming coming from a nearby wooded area by the Simpsons' home. Then Brad got into his pickup truck and left their home only to return about an hour or two later. Loved ones began to notice something was off because the following day, the couple's child's school called Brad to tell them their child hadn't been picked up, which is something Suzanne normally did. Then the following day, after police interviewed staffers at the school where one of their children attends, the 5-year-old child reportedly told staff her parents were fighting and that her dad assaulted her mom and took her phone away. The child also said Suzanne had a bruise on her elbow. But then another twist in the case. Brad's business associate was arrested this week accused of tampering with evidence. According to court documents, Brad allegedly texted his business partner, James Valley Cotter, a day after his wife disappeared, asking him to hide an AK-47. Brad allegedly texted Cotter saying, quote, "If you're in Bandera, can you haul to meet me at your house? I don't have much time." Then another text allegedly sent by Brad said, "Sorry for the urgency, but you're all I got, especially now. Social media is destroying me." According to police, Cotter agreed to hide the weapon at his San Antonio home. but not in a gun safe, instead in the wall of his home. ATF searched Cotter's home this week, and the K-9 team helps locate where exactly the AK-47 was. And it was retrieved out of a void in the wall. The gun reportedly was captured on video provided by someone working with the investigation, showing the same gun in a vault in the Simpsons' house. Brad Simpson, in turn, now faces an additional state charge of prohibited weapons and tampering/fabricating evidence after the discovery of the AK-47. The father of 4 also faces a federal gun charge after he was found to be illegally in possession of a short-barreled rifle. Cotter was arrested Monday for allegedly hiding the gun and is also accused of tampering with evidence and not being truthful with law enforcement. But at this time, neither men have officially been charged in connection to the disappearance of Suzanne Simpson. Now, 3 weeks after
Investigation continues in the search for missing Almost Park realtor Suzanne Simpson. She hasn't been seen in more than 2.5 weeks. Suzanne's husband, Brad Simpson, faces 2 new charges in the case, and Brad's longtime business partner is charged with evidence tampering. 65-year-old James Cotter is in the Bexar County Jail on a $500,000 bond. He's accused of hiding a fully automatic AK-47 that belonged to Simpson at his home. An arrest affidavit says Cotter and Simpson were in constant contact in the days after Suzanne's disappearance. Cotter's filed a motion asking to have his bond reduced. He says the amount is excessive for him and his family. And this comes as Brad Simpson's attorney filed a motion for Brad to let him see his kids.
News 4 San Antonio's Robert Price breaks down why that may not happen and the new bond amount he's now facing.
More than 2 weeks after Suzanne Simpson was last seen alive, her husband, Brad Simpson, remains in the Bexar County Jail on assault and unlawful restraint charges.
Of course, we're looking at Brad because of the fact of the family violence.
Arrested for a physical confrontation with Suzanne, witnessed by a neighbor the night she went missing. His bond was set at $2 million, much higher than normal for misdemeanor charges.
He may be a danger to her, and so that's why the bond was so high.
Then came that federal detainer, the ATF placing a detention hold on Simpson for having a short-barreled rifle that was not registered to him. Throw in a new evidence tampering and weapons charge this week, and his bond now sits at $3 million. The conditions of his bond, preventing him from seeing his 4 children, something a former FBI agent we spoke to considers appropriate.
These were all necessary, I believe, to protect the community and specifically his children.
Brad Simpson disagrees, and his lawyer has now filed a motion looking to let him see his 4 kids, arguing the state has not offered any evidence to suggest that not seeing his kids is in any way related to the safety of the community or an alleged victim. Simpson is not a flight risk, his lawyer writes. He's asking the judge to remove or modify this no contact order.
He has 4 children. So imagine if law enforcement would have allowed him to return to that family dynamic, they could be endangered.
Brad Simpson will make his first court appearance November 13th, have his charges read to him, and enter a plea. As for that no contact order with his children, we'll let you know what the judge decides. I'm Robert Price reporting.